Welcome everyone for another Creator Spotlight with Unity. I'm your host today, Manuel Sensili. I'm from the advocacy team, live from Montreal in my room. So today we're going to have an interesting stream with a team from Zerio called Blender Start Here. Their game is amazing and it helps people learn Blender, which usually is really hard to get into for new beginners. So the goal is to actually learn from them, see a little bit about their, story. And today I'm actually joined by my guest, co-hosts, and my friend Esteban that is also working with me at Unity.
Hello, everyone. Like Manu said, I'm also part of the advocacy and community team. I'm a developer advocate, and I'm also very excited to talk about this project and this team that we met a few months ago. And it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna be talking about Blender, and one fun fact, real quick, regarding this stream is that this game actually made me open Blender for the first time ever. So that's
amazing.
That's just a quick intro.
Yeah, the team at Zerio are amazing. And before we get into presenting our guests, let's actually watch a play trailer. Amazing. So welcome Nina and Dave. This was an amazing trailer. I think that Blender Start Here is a very special project, special to our heart also at Unity. We're excited to have you today. So let's get into some introductions. Nina, would you give us the first one?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having us on here. Super appreciative. My name is Nina Fei Lin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zerio. I'm based in Hawaii, and I'm a business and creative consultant. I work with nonprofits and other entrepreneurs. I also work with teenagers, and I have a very eclectic professional background. So I come from different industries, including education and design, travel, hospitality, real estate. So I've hopped around a bunch of different spaces, and education is where my heart is at. So I'll hand it over to Dave to quickly introduce himself too.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dave Mills, and I'm the CTO as well as a co-founder of Zerio. And I'm the game lead of Blender Start Here. So I am working in Unity all the time. I'm currently in Pittsburgh, but a bit more of a digital nomad. And I have a background in engineering and studio art, and then I combine the two with creative technology and got my master's in that. I had recently been in AR House. If you haven't heard of it, it was a house in the Hollywood Hills where creators would get together for a month. They'd live together and they'd all create things. And it was while I was there that we ultimately made an app called Pillow. And so it's the first laying down app for virtual reality. And then after that, I started building Blender Start Here. And as we continued building out Blender Start Here, it eventually took us to all these different places. And eventually it took us to GDC, which is where we got to meet Esteban.
This is amazing.
Oh man, that was a fun day.
Before we talk about that, actually, I just wanted to shout out Nina for waking up that early because it's really early today in Hawaii. And I'm super excited to have you both on the stage. So tell us about this photo, Esteban. What happens here?
So I remember almost like it was yesterday. Like I was with Hirsch, another coworker from the Neko for Entities team, and we were trying to meet. meet developers, asking them about multiplayer stuff and whatnot. Then all of a sudden, we weren't having that much good of luck, and then all of a sudden I see this chicken, just this chicken dancing around and everything, and this other person even dressed with a pineapple. I remember at the time, but I was like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I want to say hi to those people. I want to see they're promoting a game or something, and I just start saying hi and everything. We take pictures, and then all of a sudden Nina pops up and like, oh, do you know, like, we're actually making this game, blah blah blah. Blender is like, wait, what? Like, she tells me the project, and I'm like, wait, and I immediately paused anything that I was doing. I was like, I want to test this game. Like, what's up? And immediately get basically enamored by the idea, and it's super cool. So it was really a pure coincidence, like pure, like almost a little bit of like social networking magic, like that happened. But yeah, indeed.
And I guess that's what GDC is
day.
all about. It's the community, it's getting the developers with the creators. And you know what? It's funny, we're getting some live messages on chat. More people are actually active on YouTube than Twitch. So Twitch, you better behave today. I want to see some comments. We are getting some chicken emojis in particular,
Nice.
which is fun. So yeah, Nina, what do you remember about that day specifically?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm so happy to share this story, Esteban. Thank you for bringing it up. And so the funny story about the chicken costume is that, so in Blender Start Here, the main character, the avatar that that you play, not the avatar, but the main character of the game is a pigeon. And so we had ordered a pigeon costume in the mail. It was a onesie. It wasn't as cool as a inflatable, but that was our starting point. We ordered a onesie pigeon, and we opened it up the night before we were supposed to go into GDC. And we ended up getting a pirate costume, and we were like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do? This is not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it." And so I happened to have ordered this inflatable chicken a little bit beforehand, and it miraculously came in the mail really quickly. So I brought it just to laugh about it and show everybody, right? And show Dave. And we were like, okay, we just got to work with the chicken. So we brought the chicken. It was a hit. Obviously, Esteban became our friend right at that moment when we activated the chicken. And yeah, it was amazing. It was a happy accident, I think. It was all meant to be. So now we have a chicken in the game, by the way. That is like, had to slip in there.
You had to, right?
We have to. We got to make it make sense,
Absolutely.
Awesome. So maybe Dave, you could tell us a little bit about the story between you two and the story between the studio, behind the studio. So Zerio, where did it started? How?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had gotten a little weak on my chops when it came to development. And so I decided to join a boot camp called XRIO for the developer program, and spend about a month just developing so that I could rebuild my portfolio. And we had built throughout it, and we only realized later that in parallel we were developing with a designer cohort. And actually for the final project, they combined the two. And so we had something like a 10-person team creating this final project, which we ultimately called Riley's Escape, which was a cross-platform escape room game. So one person is in VR, and then another person is with their phone. And this way we could have a connection between, say, a family where there's only one headset in the family, but the rest of the family has phones. And so generally, at least at the time, virtual reality was a very isolating experience. And we wanted to bridge that gap between, the people who were in and the people who were outside.
That's a fantastic story. Was it an instant, yes, let's do it?
So as we were developing it, it just kept on coming together. And, Nina, being like this amazing project manager, was just making sure that things were getting hit on time. And so it was just a magical happening. And by the end of it, we were like, well, actually, there's a story between Nina. Do you want to go into how we actually started the company?
Yeah. So, when we had put that, we presented that game to our class and our instructors and everybody, and also the CEO of that company called XRIO. And so we were very surprised at their response. Our project was well received. And after the program, we had met in VR. We had this little after party in Altspace. Back when it was around.
Altspace. It was great that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we had all met in VR. It was a fun after party. And the CEO, we were talking a little bit, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to start a company? You guys did great." And I was like, "Yeah, actually I do," because, even before the program, I was intending to do that. And so I moved my avatar over to Dave's avatar. I was like, "Hey, Dave, do you want to start a company?" Since we had both led the team, right, for this project. He was leading the developer side, I was leading the design side. And we were like, okay, we work really well together. And we decided, you know what, let's just go for it. We aligned on ideals around education and accessible learning and teaching real world skills. And, we both play games. So we're just, we all just as a company, as just individuals, we believe that playing is learning. So that's how the company got started.
We got Loudfire in the chat saying, Altspace, yeah.
Yeah. And it was all remote, by the way. The fun part is that we all met remotely, right? We kind of met as online friends first. And then we started the company remotely, and we ended up meeting for the first time just to open our bank account. That was the first time that Dave and I met. We have a third.
What year was that?
That was in 2021.
Wow. So during the COVID, you started remotely, but you did find a way to meet. That's amazing.
Yeah, to start the bank account. I mean, can you imagine hey, we're meeting for the first time at the bank to open a bank account.
Out of just trying, this relationship came to be, and out of learning and all of so like they've said, a little bit of serendipity as well in that making.
Yeah, it kind of keeps on hitting us.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we have a third co-founder at Zerio. She's our design director. Her name is Ying Chen, and she's amazing. She's based in California. So Dave is based on the East Coast. I'm here in Hawaii. We're a fully remote team. We have other people in our team that are also just spread throughout Canada and DC. And so we do work with a lot of people from all over the place. We are very proud to be a fully remote company. And that's the beginning of us. So.
Oh, Ying was also in the cohort, the design cohort with Nina and myself. So yeah, we all got together and decided to create Zerio. And
amazing.
it was our first project. Was we got accepted into the Oculus Launchpad program with Riley's Escape. And it was there that we started developing tiny homes. And the idea of tiny homes, which ended up being, it's a big concept. So it's the type of thing that hopefully you'll see more of it in the future. But it was a virtual educational space where you could learn real world skills inside of a digital world that would be helpful there, but they were the type of skills that could be brought out into the real world. And really emphasizing the idea of accessible learning. And so, as a creative technologist, I'm constantly sort of looking into microcontrollers or buying little devices. And oftentimes they would come from China. And so I'd get this wash of inspiration over the weekend and be like, oh, I want to build this, I want to be able to. This was before the television was receptive to voice. So I wanted to be able to talk to my television, tell it to turn on and off and switch between PlayStation and regular TV. And it takes a month for something like that to come from China. And I don't know if I'm going to have the same inspiration in a month. And then it comes to accessibility. You have to actually buy these things. And when you're a kid, you don't have that. And so really, virtual reality is one of the best ways to make these types of things accessible. And so you can just test them out, see if you like them, and then if you do, then you can actually invest more money into them. And so creating an entire game or even an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem, is something that is really on the horizon. And that got us started.
That is sick. And, I have a little bit of background in XR as well. And I find that the education space over there is so important. I mean, you can see all the headsets behind me. And I find that we don't have enough XR creators that are moving forward coming from a design perspective, which is very different. And so it's very beautiful to see you three on the photo that we saw earlier, because that gives also motivation, I think, to designers to invest in that space and to see that there's space for design in XR, and accessibility and UX matters a lot. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we have someone in the chat that just said, I played the demo, so glad you all gamified the learning process. Chicken emoji.
Nice.
What were you saying, Dave?
So we continued with that, and since then we've been trying to build educational games as well as the types of things that will kind of connect people. And so there's actually an example of crossword, and this was another product of trying to connect people who are inside of virtual reality and people who are outside of it. So here we have 3 players, and so this was like a board game. So like really the type of thing that ideally you would play, with family members who have gone remote. They're out of the state or the country, and still being able to play board games with them. And so some may have virtual reality headsets, and others might have phones. And so incorporating, XR, VR, and AR, and creating this mixture so that if you're on your phone, you can see the virtual reality players inside there. And in this case, this was another bird, a parrot. And the idea was that you could, hop onto their shoulders. And so in the case of, say, like a kid who is in virtual reality trying to solve a problem, you could have a parent hop onto their shoulder and then be able to actually point things out to them, have a virtual laser pointer and say, like, look over here, or you might want to like pick this up. And you really can't do that currently with the way that screencasting is happening.
Right.
You can really only use your words, and it creates a really difficult bridge when it comes to the communication between these multiple worlds. And so that was the idea of Crossword, is showing how you can create that connection and communication line.
I love the fact that like the theme of collaboration, learning, like it's constant in all these in all of these projects, and obviously it'll show later when we discuss like the Blender project, but learning, community driven, to help out others so that people can work together, even in an isolating, like you mentioned, like an isolating device that is VR. Is a very, I love that. I love that you're trying to break that illusion that VR is just for one person and that's it. So
exactly,
that's amazing.
Plus, it looks very early too. Like nowadays, it's a bit more easy to do multiplayer and mixed reality with pass-through, but being able to actually build that from scratch. Give you my hat.
Thank you.
So we had people in the chat saying, so is it story time or are we going to see product? Yes, we're going to see product. Okay, we're going to have a lot of technical demo and stuff. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk a little bit about your Kickstarter campaign that just launched, which, Nina, you have a fun story about that maybe to share with us.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to.
I could totally share it. Dave took it for the team, Dave and Ying. I had slept, so I'm in Hawaii. So I was supposed to wake up at like 6 a.m. yesterday, my time. I slept through my alarm. I woke up at 6:30 and I hopped on the call. I was like, you guys, I'm sorry. We launched. Yeah, I launched, celebrated in my dreams with all of you. So we did launch yesterday. We're doing amazing, and super grateful for everybody who's already backed the campaign. Really excited about building out Blender Start here and just having, like you said, Esteban, like community driven. That's what we're really all about here. And we have been getting so much love and support from the community, from the Blender community, from the creative community. This is something for creatives, like the next generation of creatives that are trying to get into 3D spaces or, game development, design, XR, right? So this is very much for, middle school, high schoolers, also adults who are looking to switch careers. We're creating this game, for people who to just use it as a tool to dive deeper or upskill right into the 3D spaces. So that it just launched May 21st yesterday, and it goes until June 21st. So please support us, back our Kickstarter, and our hope is that
30 days, viewers, 30 days. Also, the link is in
Yeah.
the chat, so in case you're wondering where to click to support, it's right over there.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, so that's the Kickstarter. Our aim is, depending on the Kickstarter and the success of that, our aim is to ship the game by early next year, 2025. And we're also aiming to create some sort of packaging or plug and play type of model for educators, teachers to bring this game into schools, university, any kind of learning space, and make it easy for people to dive in.
And there are some packages where you can get 2 friends can participate and get a copy each, right? And there was 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I love
Is that correct, Nina?
Yeah, we have a bunch of perks and rewards, including, like you said, being able to collaborate with friends. And we have some,
Nice.
CG Cookie. Our friends at CG Cookie have offered discounts to their membership, which is an educational resource for Blender beginners as well.
I learned Blender from CG Cookie, so that's full loop right there.
Nice.
Full circle.
Excellent.
Awesome.
That's really cool. I wish I had that 3 years ago. Can we just go back in time and relaunch the game earlier?
If I had a nickel.
Dude, seriously.
Time machine. Yes, it's done.
Amazing. So now we're going to get to the next step of this show. We're going to get into about the game. So how was building the game? And also, why a game?
Here we go.
Yeah. So really, like, why are people learning Blender in the first place? And so it kind of breaks down into 2 people. There's the people who want to actually learn Blender itself and just dive into it and then, be able to create something. And then there are people who are, they already have something in mind that they want to do. The most common one I've seen recently have been polycam, people who are scanning their world. And then when they get the model, it's like a really high poly model. And so they need to decimate it. And so then they need to figure out, okay, what tool can I use that's easily accessible that I can then, alter the 3D asset. And so those people want to do something already. And so they're going to use Blender in order to accomplish it. And so when they're trying to learn, it kind of comes down to, there are like 4 things that people can use to learn Blender. There's like YouTube, and then there's signing up for a class. There are looking at the actual like manuals of like getting a book, and then there's like one-on-one learning, which the last 2 are maybe a little bit less accessible. One, not many people want to read a manual, and then one-on-one is also just like you can't find that many people willing to, or you might not have the cost. So when it comes to like YouTube, like people who are learning from YouTube, the people who are creating the content for YouTube, they're actually trying to like have you build something at the end of it. And so they're prioritizing engagement, but not the fundamentals. So they want you to kind of already know where to go in order to do this, because they're like 5 steps ahead and they want you to have this thing at the end. And then classes have like a limited amount of time and availability. So, oftentimes if you're in a classroom, someone might fall behind, they raise their hand and the professor, goes to them, and that like uses up time to learn. And so there's, it's hard to, like keep up with each individual person. And so that's what actually makes a game really incredible. Games are really good at making repetition like fun, and that's really what's required to like actually fully understand something, is just doing it over and over again, which is not super engaging YouTube content. And so it can make repetition fun and engaging, and then levels themselves are kind of built-in qualifiers. So, anytime you beat a boss, like that's because you've learned the previous things the mechanics that you needed to in order to beat the boss. And so when you put it into an educational context, then, you actually have to learn the content in order to like beat the boss. So we have these built-in like tests. And then in addition to that, video games are really good at creating emotional content and storytelling. And creating emotional connections between something is like a really strong way of making sure that you kind of stick with it and you'll stay with it. And so by creating an emotional bond with, say, Blender, is if you can do that, then you're going to up the chances that someone is going to be more willing to open up Blender and not just close it.
I love that.
Another
Maybe you
thing,
can build the emotional connection with the pigeon as well.
yeah, like every single character. Actually, one of my favorite developments has been trying to incorporate different Blender lore into the actual game and working.
Wait,
it
Suzanne
into
is in the game?
Suzanne is in the game. So she is being branded as the Obi-Wan. She kind of comes in and she will guide you. She will like instruct you and give you tips and tricks. Yeah. So, like,
for those who don't know, Suzanne, it's the Blender mascot. It's a monkey. You probably saw it on a few screenshots over the internet.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that she does in the game is she actually presents you with like one of these navigation gizmos, and navigation gizmos are the little XYZ coordinates that are in the upper right hand corner. And one of the other things about Blender is it's like really overwhelming, all the UI. And so what a game can do is if you earn all of these things, and you earn them one at a time, then they kind of become like trophies. And so when you open up Blender finally, then none of these things will be like, whoa, what is this? You earned each one of those every single time, and they now become these like, badges of honor.
I was about to say badges, yeah.
Yeah. So like putting all of this into a game context, it really kind of builds on itself and becomes sort of the quintessential place to create a foundational understanding, but not necessarily go into like the deeper things, which is ultimately what we want creators to do. So we do not plan to replace anyone. We are just trying to become fill in the space that happens between people wanting to learn and then people like actually trying to learn with all the tutorials. We're like in this gap between.
So on the contrary,
amazing.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, so on the contrary, you would like you don't exactly, you don't want to switch out the teaching method. You want to like be able to reinforce it. So perhaps people play our game, and then maybe if they go to a tutorial, are like, oh, wait a minute, the pigeon game taught me that. I mean, I don't, it's not the pigeon game, but the pigeon is so cute.
Yeah.
but the pigeon game taught me that this and this and this. Oh, wait a minute, now I can associate it. When I watch this other YouTube tutorial, once I finish playing the game and I want to do something more advanced that maybe the game doesn't cover, like, so it really helps blend the two of them together. No pun intended.
Blend the two. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so actually one of the really fun parts about this project and putting it out into the world has been this concept of collaborating with all of these Blender creators. So we are ultimately creating kind of like discoverables. We have a content creator collaboration cards. So with all the C's put together, a lot of C's, but ends up being 4 C's. So they're the C4 collection. And we get to reach out to these people who are artists or creators for tutorials, organizations, communities, and we get to feature them in a way that like players, as they go throughout the game, they can discover these cards, and then they can click into each one and have that link them to, whether it's their Instagram or their YouTubes. And it's just a way of introducing all of the Blender community to new users so that when they finally finish the game, then they continue their journey and they kind of already know who they want to follow next, who can, help them learn or who can help them understand where they can use their skills in a professional sense, where they can meet friends in, say, like Discord channels. So being able to reach out to all of these people and feature them has been just a real pleasure. And and it really enforces the community aspect of Blender, which has been great.
Yes. Could we pause on that animation? That was really sick. Like usually, those moments of opening a chest or like unlocking something special in the game it's the moment of reward and moment of like love, and like I have to praise the animation work here. This is really cool. It looks exciting. Mm-hmm. My designer eye is pleased. This is umami for the visuals. Thank you. All right.
We're glad you like it.
I love the fact that the game itself invites you to like go outside of itself and hey, explore these other users. Like
Yes.
those actions speak louder than words. So
And recognize some of those images as well. I think I know some of those creators. That's pretty cool.
and there's Dave right in the bottom.
I had to keep it even. And it's the only one I had, so I did end up sneaking myself in there.
Yeah. Oh, I know Janice. Janice Journal. Pretty cool. Amazing. We'll shout it out. Why Unity? Why not another engine? Why Unity?
Yeah, so one of the big questions is why Unity and why not like Blender or why not another game engine? And it comes down to sort of like me. It's what I know. It's what I've like sort of my bread and butter now. It's treated me well, and I've learned to do a lot, and it can do a lot with it. When I was back in school, it was kind of like a little bit of the war between, Unreal and Unity. And it took me a while to kind of sort of decide on an answer that I really like kind of got behind of like, what is the difference between the two? And Unreal to me has always kind of been, if you're an innovator, then it's really good for innovation. It requires like you can do so much with it. But it's like a big beefy thing, and you kind of need to know the nitty gritty in order to really get something out there. And then Unity was Unity was community for me. It was the type of thing that was, it was accessible. There are lots of people who are like trying to do exciting, interesting things, and so there's always like a forum. There are people to kind of reach out to, and just the ability for it to kind of swap from one to the other when it came to say like porting a project from Mac to PC up to Android to iOS, like they're definitely hurdles, but it's you can do it, and so that was one of the things that like has really made Unity a fantastic tool, as well as the fact that the Unity Asset Store, all the people who are adding to it, additional third parties, like the most recent one, which I'm surprised I haven't used it more, but has been Odin Inspector. Just like what a game changer Odin Inspector is.
We just did a live stream with them not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, well, they're amazing. Really,
and they're also very good for students. They have rebates. I think that's also a big part of that relationship of like bringing that to more people and being able to have more people getting access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is why Unity has been the one that I've ultimately been using. It's the one that I know, and I do think that by making it a game that stands alone versus a something that you import into Blender, it does create more of an accessibility, because people who are just starting in Blender don't necessarily know how to install packages. It's not as easy as going to Steam and then downloading a game and opening up a game. So there's a lot of this continuing thing has been accessibility.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the exciting part, the technical demo. So you mentioned earlier, for example, Dave, the Odin Inspector, but let me actually ask Nina this time, what packages in general are you guys using that have been helping you building this?
Oh, well, that's definitely a question for Dave, but I know that we have been using Cinti.
Yeah. Cinti packs have
definitely
been amazing. But Odin Inspector, Do Tween, we have Cinemachine in there, Modern UI pack. The Feel pack is a really good one.
Oh, with the haptics and the animation style.
Yeah,
rumbles.
exactly. It just makes it feel nice. Play mode save, which like while you're in runtime and you're changing things, being able to save those things is like, great. And then incorporation of like Notion has been just an amazing thing for it.
Love that. I'm actually going to type those in the chat so that people can get to find them. So you said Odin Inspector, Do Tween, Cinemachine, Modern UI pack, Feel, and Play Mode Save. Any other one?
That's right. Well, I think Character Movement Fundamentals. That was another one that's in there.
Love that.
Yeah.
I find that it's often hard when you get started in Unity without anything. So like getting those packages on the asset store is definitely a helper. Some of them are free, so don't always assume that you have to pay for packages or for assets. But definitely sometimes it's worth the investment. And plus there's so many of those rebates happening every now and then on the asset store. So it's worth going into it every other week, every other month, just to check. You mentioned also Notion when we were preparing for this stream. I use Notion a lot for taking notes. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are too. How did Notion help you guys in working together or working on this project?
Yeah, Notion has been sort of this like amazing way to document everything for the game design document. And one of my favorite things to use when it comes to like writing out scripts is the help URL, where if you in the inspector, there's a little button in the upper right hand corner, which is like a little circle with a question mark, and being able to connect that with the actual Notion page that it is related to it is
wait, that's a huge tip. I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like so to me, one of the most difficult things about a game design doc is keeping people involved in it, and then also keeping it simple. But if you can create this like really easy way to connect your developers to the design doc, where the moment that they see a script and they're like, what is this script doing? Or like, who built this? Or why is this even happening? If they can, within Unity, just click that little question mark and have it link to that specific Notion page, then it makes the involvement of the game design document like much more of an intimate
organic
experience. Yeah, organic. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's really cool. I didn't know you could. I didn't know that like it had that Unity integration, and like you could even open an external link and everything. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, and like so for me, what I like, one of the biggest things I'm trying to do is create a project that can easily bring people in, and then you know, if they leave, then you know it's not going to be this big detrimental thing. And so I have this kind of like rule of managers, so that anytime there's like a manager, then that manager should have a link to the Notion page. But anything beneath it, now you're getting a little bit too nitpicky and too detail oriented. So
I see.
By keeping it simplified, because generally managers should, you know, be sort of a little bit of like the head of household type of thing.
Your
and there should
source
be
of
less
truth,
of them.
basically.
Yeah, the source of truth, and there should be less of them. And so it means that you aren't involving Notion nearly as much, but you still have these like real points of reference. So highly advised on that.
That's
awesome.
amazing. I was astonished like Esteban, and I feel like this is the beauty of Creator Spotlight, is that we get to interview amazing folks talking about their game, but we also learn a lot. The community is learning, but even Unity staff is learning. So as you can see, education all the way. Love that. Thank you, Dave.
You know, Manu, when they say like in GDC and other events, like ask the experts, and I'm like, no. Actually, like the community sometimes are the experts, and we learn a lot from them. Like, and if we're experts, it's most of the time because we're interacting with people and learning from them. So
I remember I was walking with Esteban through the GDC hall. So I actually missed you guys, because when he met you guys, I was not available. The amount of people that stopped us because of the Unity shirt to ask us questions. And I would always reference back to either a conversation I had with another user that same day or during the event. I find that the community of Unity is amazing. And thank you for following us. Thank you for being here. And let's bring more value. Again, what else? What else can you tell us about the background of this game? I heard about State Machine, for example, being one of the elements that helped a lot.
Oh yeah, if I could do a screen share of sort of what.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Can you let me know if we are screen sharing?
I can see it.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, so one of the like hardest things to do when building a game is like creating an order of events that happens, and then someone coming in and being like, hey, you know what, like why don't we swap these around, or like we're gonna need a pop-up in between these types of things. And so one of my favorite things that I've like built in this has been this progress state machine. And so here, if I enable it, I have these states over here on the right side. And this essentially allows me, so in this first state, I have to zoom into the mouse. And as I hit these checkpoints, then you can see that it starts changing. And so now I have a conversation. And now, as an example for the story, we have Doob, the default cube, which now it's a little bit of a spoiler, but Doob, or the default cube, plays a pivotal role inside of Blender Start here.
So Doob stands for default cube, but it's also like
right.
dude.
And what I love about this state machine is that, so it's at rest right now. A lot of times you can't go into previous states, but with this, because I've separated it, I can actually go back into previous states during runtime and kind of test things out. And then also being able to, like, all of these are adjustable. So I can move this meet Doob part up to the front, and as long as I update the current selection and do that, enable it, then we should be meeting Doob right at the get-go. And by creating a system that, like, is capable of doing this, it allows for iteration time, which is one of the reasons why the game is able to, like, be released early next year, because we have these really good bones set up to be able to iterate and move things quickly without it becoming spaghetti code.
I love that. And it's cool that it's at runtime as well.
Yeah.
So Dave, real quick. So it's a state, but it's not. So it's not necessarily a state machine in the traditional sense. It's more like a list of states that, like, follow one another, sort of like a recipe.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. And so, like, underneath this state machine, I have individual objects, and they each, have their own default state, which allows the progress state machine to kind of, like, control it and understand it. And then each time I want to add an additional, say, like, step, then I can just add a new object, add its own default state, and then build any extra scripts that would, like, help the state actually be completed.
We got Marco saying, "What a robust state machine! Really cool."
Yeah, you're making me swoon. I'm, like, really happy with how this has ultimately come out, and it really does make me feel very confident about the game and its completion.
But
There
I
you
love
go.
it
You get
because
some
it's
love
like,
emojis.
man, it's like
Yeah. And then,
sorry.
this is an example of, it's bringing up Edge. This isn't my normal computer, but so over here, this little thing is what will connect you to the, and I'll show you the little thing you add to the top of the class in order to actually make it open. If I can actually, I'll have to do that in a second. So
That's totally okay.
So yeah, that was the progress state machine. What was I've lost my little sheet. So if I can stop screen sharing for a moment.
I think the next thing that you mentioned was also working with AI. So I know that you had the rotation script, for example, using ChatGPT.
Oh yeah. So one of the great, and if we could bring up that script, the whole idea of AI and ChatGPT, it's really to, like, be a complementary tool. And I created a ChatGPT here, and
so that's the custom GPT features,
this is
right?
the custom one, and it pretty much means that I don't have to continuously prompt it. So I'm saying, like, I'm building a Blender simulator in Unity with the goal, and I'm telling it what packages I'm using, and then and another thing is, like, you can add, like, little things, so it'll actually make, like, nice responses at the end. I have it, like, writing a haiku or something, so every response it'll tell me, like, something nice at the end, and then I have, like, a thing that will clean it up or do performance check, like, how to improve the actual script. So here I'll do an example of, like, a rotation script. And what I like to do is build these scripts that are kind of like general purpose, and I call them simple scripts. And so if I need something that will hover, I have a script that's simple hover, and then like, an oscillating script and so when you combine these two things together, you get something that's hovering as well as something that's like moving forward. So then you get that sort of combination. And when you do that with like a whole library of them, then you can not only really iterate on things quickly, but you can also share them with other people, and you can have people be developing these actions. And so
I love that. And it's good to see that you can have this conversation right away without keep prompting it.
Absolutely. And then here, like, because it already knows Odin Inspector, it's going to put a little button in for each one of the methods in my inspector, so that in the inspector, I can call methods just by pressing a button. I don't have to like do anything from code. I can just really quickly, and sometimes I'll have buttons that'll be on top of each other, and I'll just ask ChatGPT like, hey, make the buttons side by side, and because it knows Odin, and it moves it. And then it might be like, I want them to change colors or something like that. And you don't have to, again, this is the like advantage of AI, is you don't have to look through the manuals. You can just tell it what you want to have done. You already know what it should be doing, but you just don't know the technicals behind it. So
fun fact for the community, actually, those that didn't know, Unity just made available Muse Chat in the editor. So we actually presented that at GDC not too long ago. That's why I wasn't able to actually meet you guys. I was probably presenting it on stage. And Muse Chat is basically exactly like ChatGPT, but the differentiator would be that it sits inside the editor. It allows you to not have to switch between windows, which is one of the first things that you can do with it. But the part that I think is very exciting about the future of Muse is that it has understanding contextually about what's in your game. So it knows your project settings. When you highlight or click on a specific game object in your hierarchy, it will reference it in the prompt itself and understand the inspector information from that game object. Error codes as well. Sometimes you have those, yellow or orange, black, red roundings, and you don't know what to do with it. Tap on it, it references in the code. So as you talk and iterate with it, it's able to unlock you and keep on the prototyping part. So it's beautiful to see how you've used AI before Muse existed to build the game, and to think about how people will continue to be able to use these tools. It's not replacing the developer, it's enhancing your workflow, making you more efficient, faster. So thank you for sharing that very specific example. I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and I really hope Muse is the type of thing where when I open Unity and I'm just like, looking for one of those obscure settings in the project settings, and that I would normally have to go to like player and then like, one of the objects and something that's deep in there. If I could just be like talking to something and be like, hey, I needed to output at a certain resolution, or I need to use the new input system, then it being able to like quickly take me there and like inform me of where it is. Those types of integrations would be just amazing.
So I'm sharing a link right now in the chat for Muse for those that never tried it. Muse is a suite of tools. So there's more than just Muse Chat. There's Muse Animate, Muse Texture. You can use generative AI for a lot of things. But what you just said is exactly what the pipeline allows. And it's growing. Obviously, there's more and more tools and features coming to it. But yeah, the goal is really just to enhance. We know how hard it is especially for beginners, to get into the editor. It's a little bit like Blender, right? Like you get overwhelmed by the UI, or you don't really know where to go. And usually people tend to use a lot the forums, but maybe your particular problem doesn't exist. So being able to reference all of the training data that has been responsibly trained, not using any scrapping from the internet, but really own data by Unity. It's coming from the Learn page as well. So basically the power of all the tutorials that exist from Unity itself within one assistant. And Dave, I wanted to ask you also, so this script, when you started using that, did you find yourself changing your workflow and getting used to it more and more and like wanting more from it? Or was it something that just helped you with this one task and that was it?
Oh man. So like because I'm rebuilding Blender navigation inside of Unity, there are a lot of nuances that are happening inside of the Blender UX, and doing that all on my own is I don't have the cognitive capability of doing it. And so constantly kind of going back and forth and saying like, oh, it's almost doing it. Like I'll start off with a general idea of like, I need the camera to rotate around an object that is targeted with the middle mouse button. And so I'll start off with that, and I'll bring that into Unity, and then I'll play with it, and I'll see like, okay, this part's working, but this part isn't. So now I take that same script and I just like do a copy and paste, and I'll say, this is the script I'm using, but I need the target to be changeable, or I need to adjust how, instead it was actually clicking the camera before, and I needed to smooth it. And so there was like a kind of a long conversation going back and forth. And so I will constantly sort of be doing that. And then there will be like odd things that pop up, and I'll just kind of take it in, or it might be a script that I don't fully understand, and I'll drop it in there, and I'll say, just add some comments to this. Tell me like what your logic is and how you interpret this. And it becomes this like, really great tool of just getting a more comprehensive understanding of not only my code, but other people's code.
Yes, I love that. So as a transition to our next section, I have a question for you, Nina. So it's about, I think, community in general. For example, Blender has such a strong community, Unity has such a strong community, and you managed to build this company and this amazing game that kind of joined both together. And we can see it in real time. So as I'm talking, Sophia just posted in the chat, just to more backers till they reach 100. Let's help them help us.
Yeah.
So I feel like
you.
that comes from like the genuine passion that we can hear in your voice when you're talking about the game, but also just being candidly sharing on the open about it. What do you want from the future? What would you want the community to become and to shape into?
Well, I think, I get excited about this question because to me, I see us creating these different tools and platforms and spaces where learners can really just tap into each other and themselves and be able to share their knowledge. Like it's already happening, right? Like you said, in the community space, or the in the Unity community, in the Blender community, everybody's just helping each other out. Like it's such a community driven, these are such community driven spaces where it really can't be anything without each other. And so just the knowledge sharing, the fact that people are so open and willing to just share their process, share tutorials, share their stories about, how they built whatever it is that they're building or want to be building. It's inspiring, And so I think that just expanding on that and making it so that vibe is kind of spread throughout to all generations, right? We all do that already. We all teach and learn from each other. And so creating more of these spaces and tools and games that kind of just emphasize the learning that's already happening and giving people more streams and more channels to support each other. That's what I see as the future for education and for all of us. It's just,
Yes.
how can we more easily connect with each other and share what we already know and what we're building, and support each other in building what we want to see.
Love that. And I'm going a bit off script here, but that's because I'm passionate as well about this subject. And Esteban and I have this conversation all the time because we obviously represent our communities as well as people of Unity. And so knowing that you're from Hawaii, I had obviously questioned about representation and so on. And then when we looked at the early game that you built together, we can see like characters of colors and stuff like that. What is your thinking as you're building this game about including diversity and so on?
Well, I mean, I think it stems from the fact that we are a diverse team. We are majority women owned, and we, Hawaii is such a beautiful and diverse space, right? Of indigenous communities, of people that are kind of just traveling through. It's such a global hub, as with a lot of the cities that we all live in and have worked in or lived, traveled through. And so it's a really beautiful time where, because we get to work remotely, because we get to work with so many different people from so many different places, it's sort of this natural, to me at least, it's this natural occurrence of us being able to just create tools and representation within these spaces, these games, right, that we're building, simply because we are a diverse community, right? And it's really a natural thing, in my opinion.
That's beautiful. Warms my heart.
Yeah.
I think that's a great segue to the shout out section, because obviously you're not doing this alone. There's a lot of people behind you guys. I know that you wanted to give some thank you.
Oh, yes. I mean, like I said, being from Hawaii, our space is a community maker space in Hawaii. It's a tech focused community maker space, and they are our fiscal sponsor for our Kickstarter. So people that want to back our campaign, for US residents, at least it's a tax write-off. So that's another big incentive. And again, CG
note.
Cookie. Yeah. And again, CG Cookie, friends of ours, they're a big educational resource for the Blender community, people that are diving in or even just, been in the Blender community for a while. They offer a lot of great things in their membership. So that's something that, again, is a big perk in our Kickstarter. And just the collaborators, really, our team at Zerio, all our collaborators, all the people that have been reaching out and sharing what we're doing. It's been extremely moving, and the support again is just, it's phenomenal. So
it's really
super grateful.
appreciated. Yeah, it's amazing the extent that people will kind of go to support, and so it's really been a very great experience. It's been very nice. So thank you.
Amazing. Any last minute thinking before we get into the outro? We have sharing learnings and tips at the next step. That's something that we want to do also for the chat community and people that are going to watch the stream after. There's a lot of important links, maybe resource material that you would like to share. Anything you want to mention?
I'll go first, Nina. So if I'm thinking about putting a lot more of the development of the game on YouTube, just to kind of help other game developers sort of just see how we've structured ourselves, and hopefully be a good guide for anyone who's trying to build a game. So that will be on our XRIO Zerio YouTube channel. So keep up with that and stay tuned.
Perfect.
Play the demo. Everyone.
Definitely play the demo on Steam. Remember to back us on Kickstarter. That would be super helpful. Thank you.
And also, I would say open Blender. See if the lessons transfer. At least it definitely did for me.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, did you have fun?
Wasn't
that bad? Yeah. So thank you so
great.
much for joining us. It was a real pleasure to have you both. It was also amazing to just work together towards this stream. This is my first time hosting, and I had a blast. And I was so happy to be joined by Esteban also, because it's my colleague and we work together all the time, flying around the world and presenting demos. So hopefully at some point I get to maybe present what I do and build from Blender within the Unity editor, thanks to you guys. Definitely playing it. I started about 4 days ago, and I'm not gonna lie, there is something secret in the game. You have to play it to know where it is. I'm not gonna sell the secret. Try to find it. So thanks everyone for joining. Again, we're putting all of the links in the chat. Make sure to check that out, and then the stream will be available. And then see you in a week. We have a lot of live streams coming. Unity is back on YouTube and Twitch. So subscribe to not miss the next one, and keep creating.
Thank you.